Views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Moms, are you ready to become enlightened, empowered, and stress-free? Well, get ready because you are about to tune into vibrant, powerful moms helping everyday women create an extraordinary life with Debbie Pokornik. Each week, Debbie discusses topics to help you become self-aware, inspired, and on track to create the life you crave. It's time to stop settling and start thriving. And it all begins now on Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Vibrant Powerful Mom Show. I'm your host, Debbie Pokornik, and my mission is to help you create a life you love at work, at home, and at play. At the beginning of June 2019, I began a new podcast series covering my book, Break Free of Parenting Pressures. Today, I'm going to be continuing with Chapter 4. So, if you are someone who prefers to read a book in order, you might want to head back to the beginning of June and start from there. If not, or even if you choose to do that, I am optimistic that you will enjoy these readings and really hope that if it's not your thing, you will return to the show in the fall when I'll likely switch back to my regular format of interviews and other timely material. So here we go. Break free of parenting pressures. Embrace your natural guidance. Chapter 4, Getting Back on Course. My moment of clarity. When my oldest son was 3, we purchased a Papasan chair from my office. One day, I noticed something white on the wood of the chair. Upon closer inspection, I saw that someone had marked the soft wood along one side. I put the clues together. My kids and I had been sitting in the chair reading an hour earlier. Since then, my son had brought me a key which he'd found and was now sitting on my desk. My daughter was napping. It was obvious that my son was the culprit. With anger and disbelief surging through my body, I called my son over. "What happened here?" I asked, clenching my jaw tightly. "I don't know," he responded, looking at the floor. Knowing he was lying would normally have increased my anger, but instead it seemed to have the opposite effect. I realized that he was afraid of my anger and didn't feel it was safe to tell me the truth. That bothered me and stopped my anger in its tracks. I took a deep breath and sat down beside the chair. Opening my hand, I showed him the key. "Do you know what I think happened?" I asked in a gentle voice. "What?" he asked, risking a quick look at my face. "I think someone found a key and accidentally scratched it against this chair. Then, when he found it scratched really easy and was kind of fun, he decided to make more scratches. By the time he realized that what he was doing might be a problem, the chair was all marked up." I paused, watching him ponder my assessment. "I'm sorry, Mommy," he said, his eyes full of tears. "I didn't mean to do it." I took him in my arms and we sat together talking about what we could do to fix this. We decided to use brown marker and cover up the scratches together. It worked pretty well, and I think we both learned something valuable that day. What's the big idea? When things happen in life that we don't like, we automatically think about how we would like it to be instead. These upsets provide contrast and allow us to envision a better world. This simple process is enough to make us feel better if we allow those feelings in. Unfortunately, most of us experience something we don't like, envision what we'd like to have happen instead, and then hold on to the frustrated feelings that came with the initial situation. In other words, we don't feel better because of our vision. If anything, we make ourselves feel worse. This is a challenging concept to understand, especially when it comes to dealing with our children. What it is saying is that when our children misbehave, we have two choices. We can focus on their current behavior and allow it to upset us, or we can envision them behaving the way we would prefer, feel the relief that comes with that vision, and hold tight to that feeling. In other words, it is to our benefit to pretend they are behaving in a good way so we can hold on to that positive feeling. This is very hard for us to do. When we see our kids behave in a way we do not like and we focus on that action, negative emotions surface inside of us. When we feel these kinds of emotions, our brain starts checking to see if something is wrong. If we let our thoughts go unchecked, we will start giving back the signal that something is wrong and everything moves in a negative direction. When we refuse to go with the negative, but instead keep our focus on the feelings that come with the positive ideal, we are not burying our heads in the sand, but shifting our focus from negative to positive. This helps us to keep things in perspective and also makes the positives of the situation stand out. Our child unconsciously feels this shift in energy and will begin to behave in a more positive way, which is what we wanted to have happen in the first place. Unconditional love is about loving someone regardless of condition. In other words, when our child is behaving badly, we still love her. We may not like her current behavior, but we still love her. If we focus on that love, it truly becomes unconditional. Strategies that help us focus on the big idea. Most of us want to be good parents. When other people are around us, we will tone down our parenting responses to match what we feel is socially acceptable. For example, it is rare to see a parent spank her child in public today. Does that mean parents no longer spank? No. While spanking seems to be on the decrease, there are still many parents who spank their children in the privacy of their own home. Because of this toning down in public, I often suggest parents pretend they have someone they admire watching them when their children are misbehaving. By doing this, they remain aware of their responses and are able to keep the big picture in mind. Some parents find this too hard to do when their child is pushing their buttons. For these parents, I suggest they try out their acting ability and imagine they are auditioning for a role in a movie. The child playing the role opposite them is supposed to get them angry in the movie, but their character must remain calm and controlled. Some people find this idea helpful as it allows them to stay focused on their performance rather than getting caught up in what their child is trying to do. Another role we can play is that of the reporter. If we pretend it is our job to figure out and report on what is really bothering our child, we will put every effort into helping him calm down. This involves turning judgment into curiosity, and instead of allowing anger to guide our interaction, we put our energy into understanding our child better. A final suggestion to help keep us focused on the big idea is to develop some tricks that will lower your heart rate whenever you feel things start to rocket. It might be singing a favorite song, reciting a rhyme, repeating an affirmation, or humming a tune. Anything that will help you center on yourself rather than escalate things with your child. When we stay calm, we have an anchoring influence on our child and are creating a big idea that we can be proud of. Free parenting tip: when we focus on the positives and the feelings that vision creates, we are putting our energy into making things happen. This helps us stay calmer, deal with the situation better, and demonstrate unconditional love for our child. Finding our way. Sometimes, after becoming aware of our parenting picture, we parents feel as if we are so lost, we might as well just give up. I guarantee you this is not the case. Raising a family is much like flying an airplane. The plane is slightly off course 90% of the time, but because the pilot knows where he is headed, the plane will still make it to its destination. The first thing to keep in mind is that we are doing the best we can with what we know at that moment in time. There is no reason to waste energy blaming ourselves, our kids, or anyone else for challenges in our family environment. You have everything you need to do this job. Don't allow anyone to make you believe differently. Resources like reading material, counselors, or parent educators can help you prepare for the trip, but you are in charge of the journey. So start wherever your family is currently at and believe in your ability to get the job done. The second thing to remember is that children are extremely resilient and forgiving. Even teenagers who talk like they hate their parents are usually hoping for a ceasefire. If your kids are older, it will take more effort to get everyone working together, but it is still possible. While every family is different, there are some basic ideas that can help relationships get back on track. First, start by envisioning your family the way you want it to be. Don't limit yourself to what you think is possible, but really allow your dream to take shape. Next, decide what you can do to make your vision come to life. The only thing we truly have control over is ourselves, so that's where you're going to need to start. Finally, with your energy focused on yourself, start making little changes. Although you might be the only one putting in an effort at this point, you will still see positive results. Building relationships. Our relationships with other people involve a lot of give and take. When we are kind, supportive, complimentary, etc., we give to the relationship. When we are critical, demanding, nagging, and so on, we take away from it. Over time, our relationships become stronger or weaker, depending on this give and take ratio. When a relationship is strong, it is okay to tease about a mistake. However, that same teasing can result in hurt feelings or negative reactions when a relationship is feeling weaker. This does not mean that we can never make fun of people, but to make it enjoyable, we must be aware of how generally strong or weak our relationship with them is at that time. I have a chart outlining relationship building give and take, which I've actually talked about on several other podcasts. And so there's one called Building Relationships, a Game of Give and Take, and I have included a handout. So if you go to my website, vibrantpowerfulmoms.com, you will find that you can sign up for that and get a copy. And that is what I'm referring to here about relationship give and take. And there's a podcast with it that explains the whole thing if you aren't very clear on what I have just shared. But before doing that, let me give you a little bit of an idea. The kind of things that build a strong relationship or give to that relationship are compliments, providing effective feedback and using supportive statements, giving the person a pat on the back, a wink, a high five, smiling at the other person, listening and sharing, remembering important details, like their friends' names, for example, or something important that they just had on that day, giving a genuine apology, making and keeping promises, little acts of kindness, maybe doing something special for that person just because, using a voice that projects kindness and understanding, sending a message that I believe in you, I know you can handle this, laughing together, standing up for that person even when they're not present, and so on. The kind of things that take from the relationship are insults, teasing, put-downs, eye-rolling, sneering, recoiling. You know when someone goes to put their hand on you and you pull away? Shoulding on a person, you should have done this, you should know better. Providing unsolicited advice, physical hurting, hitting, pinching, ear tweaking, pushing, those kinds of things. Threatening, intimidation, yelling or swearing at the person, breaking promises without compensation, telling them that you don't believe in them, that they'll never do it, you're not good enough, big enough, strong enough to do it, laughing at that person, gossiping about that person or making fun of them and telling stories about them in front of them. All of those things will take from the relationship. And So you can use that handout if you want more information to really start figuring out how to build this into your world. These ideas are not exhaustive, but they are a great place to start. As with most things in life, the game of give and take is all about balance. If you are in a relationship with anyone, kid, spouse, neighbor, colleague that is feeling strained, try focusing on building that relationship for a week. Only building it. If you focus on strengthening the relationship and avoiding anything that weakens it, you will notice a change for the better. Free parenting tip. We can get our family back on course by figuring out where we want to be headed, taking baby steps to make positive changes in that direction, and putting energy into strengthening our relationships. Counting on success. People need at least 4 successes for every failure in order to want to try. If this doesn't happen, a person often decides to stop trying altogether. If we want him to start trying again, we need to find a way to build in successes for him. We can lower the bar on what we see as successful, but true success is not about compliments or encouraging statements. When a person stops trying, he will often do something to ensure failure, adopting the attitude that I will fail you before you fail me, or what I like to call the FU attitude. When a person reaches this point, he is hurting. The only way to get out of a hole is to climb, but he is refusing to do so. We can allow him to sit in this hole until he decides he doesn't like it there and begins to climb out. When he does start to climb, he will find us waiting on the rim where we've really been all along, ready to support and encourage him. If we can do this while maintaining an optimistic attitude, we can have a very positive influence on this process. One thing we need to avoid when our kids are feeling this way is our tendency to pass him a shovel and make him dig deeper. This happens if we are being critical and reminding him that he's not measuring up in our judgment. For example, why can't you just try? I don't understand why you keep giving up. I've never given up on anything in my life. This just confirms what he has already decided is true. He is a failure. Finally, no matter how badly we might want to do it, we cannot lift our child out of the hole. If we do, he will likely dig another, deeper one. So whether we have lost our way or are currently dealing with a child in a hole, there are always things we can do to make a difference. Parenting is a work in progress. By becoming aware of what we can do to help our family find its way, we are doing the best we can with what we know. And who can ask for better than that? Exercise. Setting life priorities. You are 90 years old, sitting in a rocking chair, looking back over your life. Think about the things in your childhood that made you feel safe, secure, and happy. Watch your life play out before you like a film, highlighting successes and failures. Zero in on the moment you find out you're going to be a parent. Think about the feelings this news creates for you. What are your dreams or wishes for the future? Continue to move forward in time. Your kids are growing. How do you treat them? What kinds of things do you do to help them feel safe, secure, and loved? Look at the balance in your life. How much do you work, play, stop to just enjoy? Your kids idolize you. Can you hear them talking about you to their friends? What are they saying? Keep on traveling forward. Your kids are moving out, maybe getting married or having children of their own. How do they treat you? How do they treat their partner? How do they treat their own kids? Do they like you? Is work dominating their lives? Do they come to visit you? If so, do they do it because they want to? Do they still talk about you? What are they saying now? You've reached retirement and moved into old age. How important is your job to you now? Do your previously close colleagues still call? Do you feel like a valued member of society? You are 90 looking back. Do you like what you see? If you could write your whole story, what would you change? While there might be things that seem impossible to adjust in your life, there are little things you can do to guide your life in the direction you would prefer to go. Sticking to priorities is a tough task for all of us. Life seems so urgent most of the time. But if we don't live now, when will we? So that completes part 1 of the book. And rather than carry on into part 2, I am going to wrap it up here for today because it just makes sense. We've only got a few minutes left. That exercise that I just did, I've actually included in another podcast, and I can't even tell you which one at this moment, but I will look it up and I will put it on my Vibrant Powerful Moms page that's attached to this podcast today. So if you want to go and see it or listen to it, it is a lot more detailed when I do it in that one because I've expanded it quite a bit. So you're welcome to go and do that. On a personal level, I just want to bring you up to date on some of the changes that have happened for me because my kids are now young adults. They're 25 and almost 23. When I wrote this book, they were a lot younger, probably around 15 and 13. And even then I was going back and sharing that stories from their youth. So I am no longer actively parenting them, although I'll always be their mom. My relationship with each of them is really quite fantastic. It's just that right amount of connection, communication, and independence. So we all know that we're there for each other, but we also give each other a healthy amount of space to live our own lives, to make our own mistakes, to have our own adventures, knowing that we've always got people in our corner there rooting for us. Now, if you're new to my show, you might be a little bit confused to know that I actually have 2 sons and no daughter. I'm going to be sharing quite a few stories throughout my book that will be referring to a daughter. So I've actually shared bits of this story many times, but in a nutshell, it's because my youngest is transgender and has grown into a beautifully sensitive, strong, and vibrant young man. So it's a beautiful curve in my life that I wouldn't change. And it's pretty impressive. Now, both of my boys have great social and emotional skills. They're strong communicators, excellent problem solvers, super good negotiators. They're very assertive. They have a lot of skills that I'm super proud when I watch them. Not because I think I necessarily taught them those skills, but because I think that when you put the kind of stuff from this book into practice, it really helps people to tune in to what makes them the best possible version of themselves. And so I do believe I've helped them in that way, but I also think that they signed up for that, that we do choose our family to a certain extent. My husband and I are still happily married. It'll be 27 years this year, and we've been together for 29. And just last fall, we made a really big decision to move from Canada, our family, our boys, everyone, to Atlanta, Georgia, and to start out a new adventure in our life, knowing that the strong foundational relationships we've made with the people that are all still living in Canada could still be kept up through internet, through telephone, through visits, and it has been absolutely wonderful. Now, I'm not bragging here. I still have challenging moments in my world. And I don't love those moments. When problems come up, I still, am unhappy or think, oh, darn it, why does this have to happen? But then I take stock and I recognize that, okay, you know what? This has come up for a reason, and I am totally capable of handling whatever it is. And so far, I truly have been able to do that. So the skills, the tools, the things that I'm sharing in this book and even in my other book, Standing in Your Power, and on my podcast, I really do live these things. I've put them into my life. I use them in all of my relationships. And I have managed to create a life that feels really beautiful. So I hope that you are enjoying this reading. I hope you will come back next week. We will be talking about going into part 2, Understanding You and Your Family, which is actually a lot of stuff that I've covered on their own in different podcasts about personality, about family types. I don't think I've gone into the different ways that we learn, but your family of origin. And so I will get into those and share a little bit more or a little bit differently. And then after that, we will move on into the next part, which is more about the parenting pack and understanding the different ways that we parent. So that is all for today. With much respect for you and the journey you are on, this is Debbie Pokornik wishing you a vibrant and powerful day.
You've been listening to Vibrant Powerful Moms with host Debbie Pokornik. If you enjoyed this show, please give us a shout out and let us know what you loved. Visit vibrantpowerfulmoms.com to find out more about Debbie and her sisterhood of Vibrant Powerful Moms.